What's up? What's happening? Welcome in. It's the Hoffman Show, and we are going to send you live immediately to Ashburn, where Ron Rivera is answering questions from the press, key injury updates, and more. So here is the Commanders head coach. So we'll have Rivera in just a moment. Anthony's getting him ready. Pot it up. Ready? All right, off we go to Rivera.
If you got players in position, you can have success. Secondly, it's what they do and it's what they've been doing. Now, the flavor and the way it's called is a little bit different. There's some things that tell you, he's a little more aggressive in certain situations, not as aggressive in other situations. He tends to favor a different coverage from what they did last year. I mean, those are things that you look for whenever coordinators change.
With the injuries to Mathis, you really haven't seen him on the field much in 2 seasons now. How much can he help you when he gets back out there, and how do you handle that, juggling all those D linemen?
Well, that'll be obviously a decision that we're going to make based on who we're getting ready to play. This week we wanted to make sure we got him up and got him going to see where he is first and foremost before we do activate him. And then once we do make a decision, obviously we've got to decide how we want to integrate him into the group. As far as being a guy that will be up on game day.
You've been doing this a long time, but you've got young players in there. How do you make sure they understand the week-to-week nature of the NFL and toss out the Giants, look for the Eagles?
That's exactly it. You've got to get not just them, but you still have some other guys that still haven't gotten past it or have to learn to get past it quicker. But you do want it to hurt. You do want them to understand. That what happened on Sundays, was the missed opportunities that we've got to get better at. But you do want to be able to get past it and focus in on now get ready for Philadelphia.
Take 2 more. Can you talk about changes as personnel, a possibility?
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to take anything off the table.
Does that include the trade deadline coming next week?
That we'll talk about once we get there.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
All righty.
All right, that was a very quick Ron Rivera, Anthony. Was that what happened there? Why are we back talking already?
It was sort of kind of quick. He started before 4, so we were about a couple of minutes late, but it was still a relatively quick presser by Ron Rivera.
I see. Injury-wise today, Cody Barton, Sadiq Charles weren't out there when the press was out there. Let me see if I can get a full injury report as we settle in. Obviously, by the way, for the Eagles, Reed Blankenship was a full participant at safety, even though they obviously just traded for Kevin Byard. Bradley Roby, DMP with the shoulder. Milton Williams, defensive tackle, limited participant with the heel. Rivera, you heard there at the end, asked about if there's any changes along the offensive line, said there are lots of things they're discussing, potentially Tyler Larson. A lot of things we're discussing and talking about if we think things can help us. Full injury report. Fuller didn't practice again, listed as rest. Curtis Samuel with his foot, they're managing him. And then Sadiq Charles and Cody Barton. Let's see. What else? By the way, the other big injury news from around the NFL today, Sam Darnold probably starting this weekend for the 49ers as Brock Purdy's in concussion protocol. But yeah, that seems to be kind of the main thing from Rivera today is non-committal to a lot of different stuff. And, I genuinely do wonder if you're going to see some changes because obviously what's happened isn't working. 1 week on the O-line doesn't make – 1 week of bad O-line play doesn't mean that actually everyone's been right all year. And that's something that we're going to talk about a lot in the Never Read the Comments section today where, a lot of people are saying, oh, Sam behind this O-line, it's terrible O-line, it's a bad O-line. If he only had a half-decent O-line. He does. They are definitively half decent. But that doesn't mean that they couldn't be better. And I will say this, Anthony, this is where I thought I'd start. In fact, I thought we'd still be listening to Rivera right now. But, one of the things that drives me nuts is, when people just take numbers and throw them out completely out of context and try to make a point that the numbers don't actually make. you got people talking about how bad Andrew Wiley is. And look, Wiley hasn't been good. No one should be trying to tell you that Wiley's been good. But like, he's given up some of the highest number of pressures in the league. That's going to happen when your quarterback drops back more than any quarterback in the league. That's how totals work. Like, percentage-wise, he's middle of the pack. And like Sadiq Charles, he's given up, like the third most sacks amongst interior linemen. Well, on a bunch of those, Sam stepped up into Sadiq's guy, and Sadiq gets credited for the sack. Watch the tape. Know what you're watching. Don't just blindly look at totals numbers and think that is actually relevant in terms of how these guys are playing. And again, the O-line was bad on Sunday, and there's a ton of mental mistakes, and Charles was a big part of a lot of them. Gates was really bad on Sunday. Like, but there's no defending, and it's not even defending. And that's the other thing too. I think that really, like, where I'm kind of frustrated right now with a lot of the narrative play around the Commanders, and it makes it really difficult to talk about, is you're defending, you're switching. No, I'm analyzing. If I tell you Sam Howell played bad on Sunday, it doesn't mean I gave up on Sam Howell. I don't have a stake. Like, I have a position that I have a prediction, but like, it's a moving target. In terms of the actual data that we intake. And it's more important to take a look realistically at where we are than try to do some ridiculous forecasting moving forward. And this is kind of what I talked about last week when I was like, why is everyone obsessed with labeling Sam Howell as the guy or not right now? If you had to bet right now, I don't have to bet right now. And more importantly, they don't have to bet right now. There's 10 more games to go. And every single week we can say, like, hey, if we had to make the decision today, would we X, Y, or Z? And to be honest, with where we are right now, based off of Sunday and some of the other things that I've seen, I would not take quarterback high in the draft, or if there's one that becomes available as a free agent, off the board. I wouldn't just hand the job to Sam Howell next year. I don't feel like I need to draft someone. But the beauty is, we had 10 more games to figure this stuff out. And so, with that said, even though the offensive line hasn't been, until Sunday, horrendous, if it can be better, you should do better. If Ricky Stromberg or Tyler Larson is going to be better than Nick Gates, play that guy. You don't owe Nick Gates anything. And you know who would agree with that? Nick Gates. He signed his contract. He's going to get the money. You're not entitled to playing time. If Cornelius Lucas is a better right tackle than with Andrew Wiley, which isn't an outrageous statement, then play Cornelius Lucas. Like, Wiley, you don't owe him anything. You signed him for a reason. But, like, you don't owe these guys anything. You owe it to everybody to play the best players at each position. And if there are better options, then you should play them. And if Chris Paul comes in and this offensive line starts to gel and play better with Sadiq Charles out due to injury, even though Sadiq was really good earlier this season, hasn't been as good lately, then keep playing Chris Paul. Or if Ricky Stromberg winds up playing there and he's better, then play Ricky Stromberg. Like, I'm not tied to anyone. The only thing I am tied to in the way I do this, in commenting and commentating on this team, is I am tied to trying to actually accurately reflect what is happening. And they stunk, the offensive line, on Sunday. They also did not get a lot of help from the quarterback. And that's why I maintain that the biggest reason they lost on Sunday was the quarterback. But you have more options on the O-line than the quarterback. It's that or Jacoby, and I think they're better off just trying to stick with Sam than going to Brissett. So, and that's from someone who likes Jacoby Brissett quite a bit. So with that said, like, everything should be on the table. And frankly, and this is the other thing too, like, the hot story of the day is apparently at least one team has made a legitimate trade offer for Montez Sweat. If you lose on Sunday, you should take a trade offer. If you win on Sunday, you're 500. So one of the things that I think is very silly about the way we talk about sports is we want to do everything right now, definitively including things that we don't actually have to do right now. We'll take calls right now, 301-230-0980. I didn't even put out for some. But we got people calling in, so we'll take some calls because we were planning on playing Rivera for longer, and then Ron got a head start on us. False start on Ron Rivera. Maybe Anthony Hill pay for lunch.
That would be nice. You know, save some coins.
Our fine system, that's a false start on Rivera. 5 yards, Ron pays for lunch.
That's the last 5 yards anyway.
What if we just sent that? We sent a bill to whatever the address is out there at Joe Gibbs Drive.
I don't think it would ever make it to Ron.
They're probably not.
Yeah.
Okay. So we'll continue to wait to see which one of us picks up the final 5% of lunch and eventually get it. We'll take your calls next, though. 301-230-0980 at the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live as well on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Coming up at the bottom of the hour, my chat from Wizards Media Day with Wizards head coach Wes Unseld Jr. on the, are we on the heels, on the toes? I guess we're coming up on opening night tonight. Just over 2.5 hours from now, we send it to Glenn and Dave for the pregame show. Tip-off, 7 p.m. tonight here on your home for Wizards basketball. The Team 980 Wizards and Pacers getting things underway in the Will Dawkins, Michael Winger era. Now, though, we're talking Commanders, 301-230-0980. And Anthony, actually, the beauty of that being a taped interview is that if we want to keep taking some calls and then move Wes around, we can. So we'll consider that. As the YouTubers, as we're also, of course, live on YouTube, can see Anthony busy answering the phones. 301-230-0980. Let's start off with Marvin. Marvin, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, Craig. How you doing?
I'm good, Marvin.
Yeah, man, I wish I had more time because I got like 6 zillion things I'd like to tell you. First of all, brother, I'm going to have to say everything you said about in last segment, I have to disagree with. I absolutely disagree with if you think this offensive line has any redeeming quality at all. I'm looking at them and I'm saying you're talking about stats. Bump stats. That's for analytic nerds. All you do is look with your eyes. This offensive line.
But Marvin, no, stop. Stats are just numerical representations of results. Like the score in the game is a stat. You realize that, right? Points scored is a stat.
That's the only stat that matters, though.
But the other stats inform that stat. And, like, you also have to put into context. For instance, like, sacks is a stat, right? But just assigning blame based off sacks is pretty stupid unless you understand the context of the statistic, which is that traditionally, sacks are actually a quarterback-driven stat, not an offensive line-driven stat. And that is proven by the fact that over time, if you take quote-unquote bad offensive lines and you put a different quarterback behind them, the sack numbers change dramatically.
Absolutely. They do. Because every player changes the game differently. They
of
just
course.
do. If I put the best quarterback ever behind a bad offensive line, the bad quarterback might take a little hit, but he might boost up the offensive line.
Of course.
That's not the point right here. The point right here is what I'm trying to make is we have this quarterback and we have this line. Okay? And right now, with my eyes, I can see a bad offensive line and a quarterback who's learning, who has his biggest fault. Sam Howell's biggest fault is he trusts what the play call is. He's reading deep to short every time, and he doesn't really have time. He should be Alex Smith and read short really quick and throw those little check
100%.
downs. But the truth is he's trusting his offensive line, and that's just ridiculous because they're terrible.
But that's the thing is they're not terrible. They're average. And like
God.
this is the difference, Marvin, is like the conclusion is not the offensive line is terrible. The conclusion is the offensive line is a bad fit for this quarterback, and that was organizational malpractice. That's very different. Because if this same offensive line is in front of Patrick Mahomes, for instance, who is the exact opposite end of the spectrum on taking sacks than Sam Howell, they could win a Super Bowl. Like, that doesn't mean it's a bad offensive line. It means a bad fit with the quarterback and a bad fit potentially with how they're teaching the quarterback to operate. But considering this quarterback had this exact flaw coming out of college, like, it's just a bad fit. What they should have done is invested heavy in a great O-line, and they just said, we'll take an average one, and they're giving him an average amount of time to throw. Again, Sunday's a bit of an outlier on this. Not a bit. Sunday's an outlier on the season. They stunk on Sunday. And it was very specific situations. They were bad at passing off stunts. Like, there was bad at identifying pressure, blitzers. Some of that is also on the quarterback, by the way. But that doesn't all of a sudden make them bad. They're giving him time to throw. He's not using it well.
Can I throw one more thing out there?
Sure.
I'll agree with some of the things you just said because, it is a bad fit. But I'm with my eyes. I don't trust any of these offensive linemen. I just think they're all jags. They're just average. And to me, below average on maybe 2 or 3 spots. But that being said, I want to throw this out there because a lot of people have never mentioned this. This is about Eric Bieniemy and just the situation that he happens to be in. I don't think people are putting enough weight on this. But he came in here with no other offers, okay? And he has this one chance to really show what he can do. So there's pressure on him to basically push the envelope, even though that might not be what's best for his players right now. And I'm saying I don't think anybody's mentioned that on any show or anything that I've heard, that he might be pushing it because this is his one shot. He's had 15 head coaching interviews, and nobody gave him a shot. He had to dump the Kansas City Chiefs for the Washington Commanders. Think about that. And they still had Dan Snyder as the owner when he does this. So his pushing this envelope might not be the best thing for his quarterback because this is his one shot. This might be his only shot of ever showing anybody he has the wares to be an offensive coordinator and coach. And that's what he's wanted to be for the last 3.5 years.
I hear you, Marvin, on that. And what I would say is that is a terrible miscalculation by Bieniemy, because the way to win and the way to get the next job is to be successful in this one, not to chase stats, to go all the way back to the start of your call. Like, Sam Howell leading the league in passing, if he's sacked a record number of times and the Commanders win 6 games, is not going to get Eric Bieniemy a job. Eric Bieniemy coming with an actual good game plan for this particular set of personnel and winning games is going to get him the job that he wants.
I'm not saying he's doing that, but I'm worried
Yeah.
that he hasn't really changed anything. He's still dropping him back as many times he did the first time he got sacked 6 or 8 times. So it's like, the proof is in what are you actually doing to actually mitigate these terrible, terrible, circumstances of having an average offensive line and a quarterback who takes way too many sacks.
That's it, Marvin. I heard that. Average offensive line. I got you. Hey, man, I'm going to let you run because we got a bunch of other calls, but I appreciate the call a lot. And again, I think this is the thing. A lot of people actually who think they, violently disagree with me don't really disagree with a lot of stuff. It's just putting the facts in the right perspective. I'm not telling you your eyes are lying and this offensive line is awesome. What I'm telling you is that if an offensive line is on average, and I know everyone's like, he had 2.2 seconds to throw on Sunday. Yeah, Sunday was bad, and that number was pulled down dramatically by, for instance, a nickel blitz where Sam gets sacked, I think, in less than a second. That's Sam's fault because he didn't identify the blitzer properly. So, even if you take that out, the number's not going to be good. And the other 5 sacks are on the offensive line, but there's also more to offensive line play than just pressure or just sacks. There's pressures. There's, on the plays where they're not pressure, how good is the pocket? How well does the quarterback move within the pocket to make the most of it? And there's a lot of stuff in those more nuanced areas that Sam hasn't really been great at so far this season. And it gives you questions when is that stuff going to start to get better? Because you're willing to live with some of it. But I think on a larger level, to the part that Marvin and I definitely sounds like we agree on, is this line, and I said this earlier this week, I've said this multiple times this season. I know that not everyone listens to every segment of every show, especially when I do 3 hours of radio 5 days a week and 3 podcasts. If you listen to everything we do, God bless you, but also please go touch grass. That is a lot of me. I don't even listen to that much of me, and the words are coming out of my mouth into my own headphones. What? Anthony, how much of the show do you listen to?
The 3 hours that I'm here.
Okay, that's the correct answer. Good job. Any other answer would have gotten you fired immediately. I'm just kidding. I don't have that power. The point is, the problem is structural. It's not that this O-line is bad. PFF has them based off of their film breakdowns and their numbers and the combination of those things coming together as a top 10 line. And by the way, if you go watch a lot of other, that's another thing. I think a lot of people don't actually watch the rest of the league very often. This is not a terrible league worst offensive line. It is a tremendously bad fit to be average and inexperienced, by the way, with a young quarterback who holds the ball at criminally long intervals. 301-230-0980. Let's go to Aaron. Aaron, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Man, thanks for taking my call, but I wholeheartedly disagree with you. I think I heard you say that we should have invested more in the offensive line in the draft. So
I literally just said that 4 seconds ago.
No. I said that's what I heard you say. That's what I'm saying to you. So my question to you is, you think that this offensive line would have been better with Heineke at quarterback? When I look at, like Marvin was saying, with my eyes, this guy has no time to pass the ball. Listen to this. Think about this. When's the last time you've seen a receiver running wide open? Those 2 passes that he threw to McLaurin, was McLaurin open? Well, maybe in the NFL, according to a professional, he was open. But in my eyes, he was not open. And he dropped that ball right
Aaron, do you hear
there.
yourself? Serious question. Do you hear yourself? According to NFL professionals, they said one thing, but I think something else. So you know better than the NFL professionals.
Listen, these guys are just paid to do a job. Not only is it just our
Aaron, what do you do for a living?
I'm retired.
What did you do for a living?
I'm 60 construction. I'm
Okay.
61 years old.
So you
I've
want
been
me
a
to come to
fan
your
forever.
construction site and be like, I don't know. I don't think that fits together. You're the professional, but I don't know.
I'm a professional fan, and not only are we losing,
Who pays you?
because of the offensive
Who
line.
who pays you?
Listen,
Who pays you?
No, I'm retired.
No. But you're a professional fan. You realize professional means you get paid to do it.
Oh,
Because
no
that's
one-
a great
no one
gig, and I
pays
want to know
you.
where to sign up.
No one, hey, let me ask you one question. What defense hasn't run rush over our offensive line? Which defense has not this year? Which defense has not?
Aaron, what you see as running quote-unquote roughshod over the offensive line prior to Sunday against the Giants was the quarterback holding the ball for longer than is reasonable to ask an NFL offensive line to block a NFL defensive line. There is a standard that this line has met. Go ahead.
He's looking long and he's neglecting the short pass. What I'm saying to you is, prove my point, we don't even have wide receivers running wide open. Because who wins? Yeah, the checkdowns, yes. And he's missing the checkdowns because
all right, Aaron,
he
I can't. My head's twisted in a circle. He should look short, but the checkdowns, this is the problem. Anthony, am I doing a bad job here? Am I being mean to people? Pull me back if I'm about to get myself in trouble.
I don't think you should continue with your thought.
I'm gonna try to wrap this up as nicely as I can. I'm happy to take more calls, and I'm trying to keep it together here. But I would like for the people that call in to make sense, because you can't have it all ways. You can't call me and tell me the O-line stinks, and when I say, actually, they're doing the thing that they're supposed to do, and then start talking about blaming the quarterback, and then yell at me when I say it's the quarterback's fault. Because that's literally what just happened. Oh, there's no one open. He's got the checkdowns. Yeah, that's one. Some of these, what you think are checkdowns, are actually the play design. Like a hitch is not a checkdown. You hit it quickly. He's got sit routes over the ball. He doesn't throw them. There's a concept they run all the time called bow. It's a 5-yard sit, and there's a deep dig behind it. And Sam has a nasty habit of looking at the dig for too long when the sit route is wide open. And I could show you a half dozen plays on film this year where that happens. So certain plays are designed certain ways. Ultimately, the quarterback has to understand the timing. And part of the timing is getting through your progression in a timely manner to hit the open receivers when they come open. Because NFL guys don't, especially on shorter routes, don't run quote-unquote wide open. That's not how plays are designed, because defenses are too good. What happens is, for instance, if there's a cover 3 situation, so 3 deep defenders, 4 underneath defenders, what'll happen is, let's say a receiver comes from there's 2 receivers to the right side. Let's take the outside receiver, kind of runs diagonal and then hooks up in between 2 of the underneath players. So he said 3 deep, 4 underneath. He'll go in the middle. Well, as soon as the quarterback looks at him to throw the ball, those 2 defenders that he's sitting in the middle of are going to collapse down on him. The ball already needs to be there. And when you're late, you either get no opportunity for run after catch, or you get incompletions or interceptions. And that is what is happening on a regular basis with a lot of the shorter stuff, because Sam looks too far down the field. That can pay off because he also has one of the highest depth of target averages in the league. He's one of the best in the league at pushing the ball down the field, but at the expense of functioning offense down in and down out. Sunday's, again, an aberration. Sunday, the offensive line had a ton of missed assignments. It was really bad, and I do think Sam got shell-shocked. He didn't help himself out, but they didn't help him either. And I don't think EB adjusted fast enough. All those things are true. But if you've got 3.5 seconds to throw in the league, that's enough time. You have to make the throws. And eventually you have to just go, there is a line of NFL quarterbacking, and in certain areas, he's not hitting it. That's an inarguable reality. And so if you call in and you try to make an argument that actually isn't there, you're going to wind up talking yourself in circles. So let's skip that part. Maybe. Or let's keep doing it. We have some more calls. Alfonso, Billy, Devon, we'll get to you guys, and we'll bump the Wes interview back. That's the beauty of the fact that we taped it at Media Day. We'll find space for it in the show. 301-230-0980, the Ace Law listener line. If you're in a wreck, Ace Law helps you get a check. Call 8888 Ace Law. More of your calls next. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. The Ace Law listener line is 301-230-0980. If you're in a wreck, Ace Law helps you get a check. Call 8888 Ace Law. Back to the phones we go. Let's pick it up with Billy from Miami, listening on the Odyssey app. Billy, appreciate you. Thanks for holding through the break. Go ahead. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. We got you loud and clear.
Great. Awesome. I might be calling into the wrong discussion because I'm calling in support of Sam Howell, but I've been wanting to bring this up since last week, even before the loss to the Giants, when Sam was already getting criticized. And I really appreciate you continuing to say, let's make this year productive by using the only way we can make this year productive as of now, by using the final 10 games to observe Sam Howell. That's the best thing we can do. So, I'd like to make 3 quick points.
All right, shoot.
First of all, he's shown enough potential. We continue to say this, and I'm happy to hear that the listeners seem to collectively agree with this. He's a young quarterback, no protection, a new offensive coordinator,
Mm-hmm.
And, I just think back to even Peyton Manning's first year. Of course, I'm not saying he's Peyton Manning, but
right, but
young
was awful.
quarterbacks struggle.
Yeah.
The second thing is, I've sort of already said it, you've said it, this year in my mind is a bit of a throwaway. So the best thing we can do is make an astute decision on how. And that would be a big thing if we can make that decision. Throwing someone else in, into the mix just to win a couple games and get a couple more touchdowns is completely unproductive for immediate results for me. And then finally, I'm going to really stir the pot. And this is just for fun, because all day I've been hearing the radio show hosts talk about Kirk Cousins and how great he is and how great it would be back to get him back here and how he won the Monday night game. I think it was Monday night.
Yeah.
And as of now, I would take Sam Howell over Kirk. And the reason I'm saying that is because to me, Kirk is a known commodity, right? Kirk has incredible talent. And to me, he's very similar to Tony Romo, who had incredible talent, had all the stats, broke all the records, but he never finished. And, unlike a Brett Favre, who probably didn't have as much talent, or even a Brad Johnson, there's just a winning mentality sometimes, or people who can win. And so I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
I don't want to make this a discussion about Kirk, but I do want to say that I think Sam has shown a lot of poise, and he's a real leader. And I think that says a lot for the locker room.
Yep. All right, Billy, thanks for the call. I'm going to respond to your stuff real quick on air. First, I'm not going to let it slide. You said no protection. He doesn't have no protection. He doesn't have optimal protection, and there's a difference there. I do agree, though, with your larger point that, letting Sam finish out the season is the clear and obvious correct choice, unless it gets to a point where you're just he can't if he keeps taking sacks at this rate, it might be in his best interest to let him sit the final 6 or so games, to just be dude, if this really is this unfixable, we can try again next year, and you let the next regime figure it out. And that's probably the best thing for Sam, so he doesn't wind up, a la Patrick Ramsey, a la David Carr, some of these really talented young quarterbacks who, the way he's bad, I think, is dangerous, because he has shown a lot of potential, because his good is exceptionally good. It's just how do you limit this thing? As far as Kirk goes, Sam now versus Kirk now, Kirk's very expensive, he's older, whatever, and you're not, if you want to try to win a Super Bowl, then in the next 2 years, Kirk's the correct answer. But I think it also goes back to, I hope the discussion is about letting Kirk go years ago, not anything now. I don't want to get sidetracked with a Kirk discussion. Let's go to Alfonso. Alfonso, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
You got it.
I couldn't agree more with you about Sam Howell. And people making excuses as a young quarterback, but he had the same problem his junior year, his senior year in college, where he wasn't in a new offense, had a different offensive line. When I watch him play, I can say 1, 2, 3, 4, he still has the ball.
Right.
He still has the ball.
Yeah.
And not only that, it's like when you're boxing, if you see a punch come, you got to move your head before you get hit. But his reaction time when he sees the pressure is too slow. He processes too slow. And I don't think it's something that's going to be able to be fixed, because, again, this is his first year playing, but this is his second year in the NFL. He saw the quarterbacks last year who held the ball too long, and he saw what happened. I'm quite sure they preached it in the meetings last year with those quarterbacks. He heard that.
For sure.
He's getting sacked every game. Every game he's getting sacked consistently 5 times a game. I think at least 75% of the sacks are on him.
Yeah, no, I mean, statistically, that is accurate, Alfonso. Thanks for the call. Much appreciated. And, yeah, I mean, Sam also does this thing that, he didn't have time this weekend. Again, the line this weekend was the exception and how bad they were. But, he'll get to the top of his drop and just kind of sit there. And you're like, oh, that's not supposed to happen. And another area where Sam is not very good yet, and hopefully this is a yet. And, again, all I can say is hopefully this is a yet. This is not me saying he will be bad at this forever. It's not me saying he's definitely going to fix it. Is he doesn't move within the pocket well. There are times where better pocket movers, you talk about, Tom Brady couldn't do anything behind this line. Yeah, he could. He'd move. And Tom Brady isn't exactly Mr. Mobility. Tom Brady's different. His movement is different than Michael Vick's. But Brady had this ability to just slide a little bit in the pocket, let a blitzer go by or a D lineman go by, and then keep his base and make a throw. And Sam has shown next to no ability to do that. He has shown some great escapability at times. The last play of the game where he winds up throwing to Jahan, who drops it. But there's plenty of other examples where a little slot, like, and sometimes he vacates clean pockets too. Like his pocket presence is bad. And I hate to say it because that doesn't bring me joy, but like that's the analysis. We'll keep going with the calls through the rest of the hour. Let's get Kenny in real quick before we go to break though. Kenny, thanks for calling. You're on the Hoffman Show. Kenny! All right, tell you what, we're up against the break anyway. I'm going to put Kenny back on hold. Anthony, why don't you double check with Kenny off the air? We'll take a quick look at what's trending. I got 4 calls. I'm going to try to get to all of them next here on the Team 980.
It is a mess in downtown Nashville every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Not even
we moved hotels the next night. I still am waiting on my refund for that. But yeah, we moved hotels the second night.
Wow.
It was fun. You say they rely on them. We went to brunch with my buddy the next day, who is a Nashville native and has lived in Nashville long enough that he remembers when it was more than just the Bachelorette capital of the world. And he's like, yeah, we're pretty much on the woo girl economy.
Yeah, that's precisely what's going on. The downtown businesses cater to that. If you try to get it shut down, you're probably the one getting thrown out. It is what it is right now. It's weird, but Nashville, baby. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. So I will add one more small part to this story, and this is the part, frankly, that I've been waiting to tell you all week as well. That was kind of part one. We got quality Yates reaction. Part two, as we leave the hotel the next morning to go to breakfast. Remember, the wall's very thin. So it's not going where you think it's going. But as we walk down the hallway, my dear sweet wife just starts saying in a slightly elevated volume of voice, you know, it's been proven that the later groups stay out and make noise and all this stuff at their bachelorette weekend, the higher the divorce rate.
Oh God!
In the wedding,
so
and also the better
trash,
chances,
basically.
and also the better chances.
Wow. Okay. Okie dokie. So Rachel was pissed, basically.
Yeah, she doesn't have a lot of tolerance for the woo girls. They say on the internet, like, feel free to post stuff, you know, like your friends' photos, do whatever. But like whatever you do for your own well-being, don't read the comments. Comment section, bad idea. What do?
We read those comments, baby.
That is exactly what we do. That was a little bit better. I still feel like that one was a little muted. I think sometimes it feels like you build yourself up a little too much, and then sometimes you don't quite go for it.
Because I ain't want to go screaming all the way. The thing is, though, my mic is a little.
It's the Hoffman Show. We are on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app and streaming live on YouTube. Yes, you can watch the show on YouTube at the Team 980, your phone, your tablet, your smart TV, your laptop, wherever it is that you have YouTube, which is anywhere that has the internet. That's kind of how YouTube works. 301-230-0980 is our telephone number, where you can call in and rant about the Commanders. That is the Ace Law listener line. If you're in a wreck, Ace Law helps you get a check. 8888 Ace Law is how you get in touch with them. All right, let's try our guy Kenny again. Kenny, hopefully we got you this time. Thanks for calling. You were on the Hoffman Show.
Hey, thanks for taking my call.
You got it.
First time caller.
Appreciate it.
First time listener, man. And I heard you, and breath of fresh air. I agree with you wholeheartedly. You actually know what you're talking about. I played collegiate football. I was a former domestic stag. You know what you're talking about, and I echo everything you said. Your exact sentiments, echo it. And one thing I noticed with Sam, just to make a point, and I want to hear your take on this.
Sure.
One thing I noticed with him, and sports is real simplistic, but he takes a lot of frivolous momentum sacks. And what I mean by that is he'll hold the ball and give a team a sack instead of just throwing it away, taking a punt. And what that does, not only is the crowd get to erupt, and that excites a defense, and it's almost like they're smelling blood. And it's a frivolous sack. It's like you just took that sack, just throw it away. It's like you took it for no reason. And that's creating more pressure, and that's creating more havoc on you, and you're just adding that on. Other than every point that you touch, I wholeheartedly agree. And that's why I think with EB, I think he's getting not a fair shake. But I don't want to take it down to another point on that.
Yeah.
To me, the expectations, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we got a bunch of calls, so I appreciate that point. First of all, thank you for the kind words and appreciate having you on board as a listener. Hopefully that continues. I'm going to let you go now, but call back anytime. I just want to make sure that we're kind to everybody that's waiting here. I think it's a really great point about kind of the way he phrased that, like the frivolous sack, right? A sack is better than a turnover, but you know what's better than not a sack? Or better than a sack? Not a sack. An incompletion, for instance. And that, I think, goes to Sam's pocket presence. There are times where his clock goes off, and he's like, I got to do something. And instead of just a subtle slide in the pocket or taking a look around and dropping his head for a quarter of a second to be like, oh, I'm good, he tries to run. And this is why, for instance, Sadiq Charles, who, again, I'm not telling you is playing awesome ball, but he's not playing as bad as his sack statistic is, because how many times has Sam tried to step up through the A gap of the pocket or the B gap on either side of Sadiq and had Sadiq's man just grabs him and brings him down? A ton. I would say like half or more of the sacks that Sadiq has quote-unquote given up this year have been Sam trying to vacate the pocket, and often it's been a clean pocket. And so when people talk about the offensive line play, when I tell you it's average or it's better than you think, like, that's part of it. A quarterback vacating a clean pocket causes pressure. And I think sometimes that is happening with Sam because he's not great at moving around in the pocket. And we'll get to this later in Never Read the Comments. But like one of the things that I mentioned earlier this week was I would be begging Sam to go spend time with Drew Brees this offseason. Be like, how did you do this at this height? And a commenter on YouTube made a great point that I think it was 11 times in Drew Brees' career with the Saints in 20 years or 14 years, whatever it was, that he had Pro Bowl level guards in front of him. And that's the thing, is like Sadiq might be playing average NFL guard ball, but for a quarterback like this, you need elite play, and it's a bad matchup. But Sam could also be elevating those guys if he'd stop running into sacks. Let's go to Devon. Devon, you've been holding a long time. Much appreciated. Thanks for doing so. You're on the Hoffman Show.
What's up? What's up, Kurt?
What's up, Devon?
I'm good. My boy knows that I listen to you guys all the time, and I do appreciate your take. You're very intelligent, and you really take pride in what you do. Honestly speaking, I'm a driver, so I listen to nothing but 980 and 106 and 7.
We appreciate that.
And of course,
that.
B. Mitch and Philly, and your show is my favorite too. But I had a whole bunch of stuff to say. But listening to you, you really broke everything down. You know what I'm saying? And it leaves me just with some questions because I really feel that you're in depth and you're very knowledgeable and intelligent about what you're talking about. So my question is this, right?
Okay.
We all listen to the pressers every week, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't heard anybody speak on this part. it's clear, like one of the callers said, it does look like Sam doesn't have time when we're sitting on our couch watching the game.
Right.
But the sacks are adding up. But when you broke it down and you're like, listen, like 3 seconds, and then I do see the thing that you're saying too. So it's like, okay, it's a mixture. Outside of this last game, all his sacks besides one was on the line. But typically out of these 7 games, it's like one. If he got sacked 5 times, it's 3 on him and 2 on the line, and then 1
Sure.
the receiver's not getting over.
Yep.
My question is this, Craig, and I take it off because I know you're up against a hard break or whatever.
Yeah.
EB always states that what he loves about Sam Howell is that he does not repeat the same thing. But it sounds like what Craig is speaking on is that he's doing the same things.
Yeah.
So I'm just confused. It's like, please don't be a Ron 2.0 and like saying all the good things, but it's really not that. And also one of the last thing, Craig, one of the last callers, I think he made a good point. That's a question to you. Is he reading deep and then reading his check down? Is that how EB wants him to do? Like, it's confusing because that's what it looks like he's doing. He looks like he's trying to get a big play, but he's missing his check down, and it's kind of why would you do that if you're continuously getting sacked? Wouldn't your switch flip and say, forget the deep route, I'm looking for all the check downs first?
You would think so, Devon.
Confusing, man.
Yeah, you would think so. Yeah, no, I appreciate it. I appreciate you listening with the frequency you do and the kind words, and we'll make sure they get back to B. Mitch and Finley too. A lot of good stuff there. A lot of questions. I'm gonna try to answer them real quick before the break. So first and foremost, EB at the podium he's a filibusterer, is what I would say. He's a guy that says a lot of stuff and doesn't really say a lot. Like, there's a lot of words, it fills a lot of time, and there's not a lot of substance to it. And also, he knows to not throw his guys under the bus. And I think early on, Sam wasn't repeating the same mistakes. I think the problem is, and why I think some of the tone of the conversation around him has changed in the evaluation process, is some of the stuff that earlier in the season, it seemed like, okay, he makes a mistake once and he learns. He does it again. And I think a lot of the mistakes he hasn't repeated, like some of the sack fumble mistake that he made against Arizona. He's been better with his ball security. He hasn't tried to escape out of the back of the pocket like he did in that play. Like, there are certain things that he did correct, and you're like, oh, he's got it now. The timing and feel for the pocket is like an innate quarterback ability. And I some of it is fixable, but some of it clearly is not. And I don't like, that is the mistake he keeps repeating. And I think part of that is going back to like the way Kenny said it, the caller before Devon, is like the processing speed doesn't seem to be up to NFL speed. And so I don't want to speak in too much generalities because there are plays that are read short to long. There are plays where you're not really reading like long to short or short to long. You're like, where's that defense? Where's the safety? Where's the corner? If he's up, I throw deep. If he's deep, I throw short. And like, do you make that decision fast enough? Or if he's midpointing the route, do you get to number 3? And like, if you stick on each route a half a second too long, well, that adds up quickly when we're talking about somewhere between 2.5 and 3.5 seconds to throw. Like, that's a massive percentage of time. And to go back to something I said way earlier in the hour, the way these plays are designed aren't necessarily to get guys to run scotch-free wide open. The NFL's defenses are too good. They're to get a guy in a window at a certain time where he's going to flash open, the ball arrives, and then that window's probably going to close. And so if you spend too much time on read number 1, by the time you get to 2, it should have been open, but the window's already closed. Either the receiver got too far into the route, couldn't throttle it down, or wasn't supposed to based off how it's coached because the ball should have been there, or a defender has had time to get back into the route. Like, these things get very complicated. Like, I would love, honestly, Anthony, like, we should pitch this. I don't know if our bosses would go for it. How much do you think we could sell tickets for a film session where me and Logan sit there with a clicker for 90 minutes and go through tape? You think we can make money off that?
A little something.
I'm just whoring Logan out. Can I say that on the radio?
That I don't know.
I hope so. I think we're fine. I'm abusing Logan's skills. I'll put it that way. But I know enough that we could do it too. It just would be significantly better with Logan. But where you just go like, because this thing happened first, these 4 other things happen. And that's every single play in this league. That's how thin the margins are. And so this is why I try to stay away from sweeping generalities as often as I can. And if I make them, it's encapsulating a lot of finer details that some of which are interesting and good to talk about on the radio, and some are frankly boring. And that's why we get super nitty-gritty on the podcast. We do, however, take some of that podcast and play it on the radio. And that is what we're going to do next. So if you want more detail and Logan's thoughts, speaking of, that was an unplanned, excellent transition, Anthony. Logan's thoughts on the game on Sunday. Stay tuned because we have a Take Command snippet for you next here on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Still to come on the show today, Dave Johnson, play-by-play voice of the Wizards. Wes Unseld, head coach of the Wizards on this opening Wizards Day. But right now, and by the way, never read the comments. Whoo, that's a doozy coming up at 5:30. But right now, it is time for Take Command on, what's today? Wednesday. On this Wednesday, film review from Sunday. Ugh, hold your nose. Here we go.
It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulson and former Commanders beat reporter Craig Hoffman.
Take Command podcast from Odyssey Sports. Logan Paulson there. Craig Hoffman here on a tape review podcast, Logan. And boy, this was not fun to watch.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't fun to watch. I mean, and I think one of these things where like the tape is very illuminating. We talked about on the post game. The plan you won, they did try a lot of quick game, a lot of 7-man pro. You would help kind of accommodate some of the stuff that the Giants were going to bring, and it should have accommodated what the Giants were going to bring. Missed a quarter, and then dang, if you're it's got to be really, really frustrating because it's like kind of everyone's mistake on every single play, but kind of alternating who's doing it. And you might have 10 guys doing the right thing and then one guy does the wrong thing or whatever it is. And so, like I think of Ron's kind of frustration makes more sense after watching the tape because you're like, we had a plan. It was a good plan. And I would agree with that. Like all the things that you would kind of check the box of minus one thing about a little bit later. You're like, and that if I'm the OC, like I would have done something approximating that. And I think it comes down to really just a general lack of execution, and everyone kind of took turns doing it. And I think offensively, at least, that's the really frustrating thing about the game. And you're like, I don't know it was really good. Like I have to pull clips for shows, right? I go through and I finished pulling clips of about 6 with probably 30 plays, right? It's really good defensive football. And outside of probably 2 drives, like they did a lot of good stuff. The playmakers came to play. Payne, Allen had some explosive sacks. Montez showed up. John Ridgeway had a good game. St. Jude said he played well. So,
yeah. Backwards from how we usually high-level thoughts, and then we dive into the details. I want to circle at the end. Like I want to flush out some of kind of this core question of was the plan. We dive into the details, like it actually, as opposed to being hypothetical about it and not having like that illumination for the listeners. Like let's do this, and then can you think the plan was good? Can talk about optimization, like good versus like whatever. But the other thing I do want to note on a high level, and this is in part in taking in the reaction to yesterday. People need to understand we know be true at once. Like something the biggest cause of a particular outcome, like the biggest reason why they lost is player didn't execute very well. But that doesn't mean that everyone else is off the hook, right? Yeah. You're going to have mistakes and from multiple places. You could like should have been that were maybe adjust away from. Like all these things can happen at once, and the rush to pin every single loss on one person for simplicity is not helping anyone. Maybe it makes people feel better because then there's one scapegoat. It feels like, well, if he does it again, then it's his head on the plate, all our problems. Guess what? It won't. It won't fix your problems because other people are actually making mistakes. So what we do is we go back, we look at the tape. There's a reason that you do it. You see stuff that you just don't really see live. It's a colder analysis in terms of the emotions where you like really hone in on like, this is what happened in the game. I do think that some of that emotional stuff, and getting caught up in the moment is important to remember because it helps inform what happened. But at the end of the day, like there's a reason that they say the film doesn't lie. And that's why we do this podcast. And, when we say one thing went wrong, that's not us absolving other people of mistakes. It's just to say that thing went wrong on that play in this game, whatever. All right. So with that said, I think when we were talking yesterday offline, like the big thing is obviously Sam. Now the O-line is going to we're going to get to now before everyone screams, we're going to get to the O-line in a second because the O-line also had its worst game of the season. But Sam also really held this offense back yesterday, which is funny because we do a segment on the radio show called Overreaction Tuesday. And of course it's featuring Linnell. And Linnell last week said Sam is holding the offense back. And I was like, I don't know if I'm comfortable with that wording. Like, he is because he's a young player, but like XYZ, why I don't love that wording. And he got crushed.
Linnell did.
Yeah, of course, because people were like, how can you say that about Sam? The O-line this, the EB that. And it's like everyone just wants Sam to be perfect. But at the end of the day, like an NFL quarterback's got a quarterback. And Sam didn't quarterback very well on Sunday.
Yeah, no, he didn't quarterback very well. And I think, it's not like, to me, it's not Sam letting the offense down. I think Sam could definitely be more efficient, but I don't know. I just look at him like, the first play of the game, like it's, if you just go by drives, right? And to me, I hate like this kind of wording that Sam let the offense down because everybody had a part in letting the offense down,
right. And things compile, right? Like I think there is something to Sam getting shell shocked at some point, and which is the first time I think I've seen that from him, where you look in his eyes and you're like, that is a scared quarterback, as opposed to the composure that he played with for most of the year. So like these factors commingle, but a lot of it I think starts with an inefficiency and inaccuracy and missed reads from Howell.
Yeah, so I mean, if you just start like the first series, right? You have a sack on 2nd and 9, it gets you a 3rd and 22. Like that isn't really on Sam. Like I think Dexter Lawrence has a great rush on Nick Gates, and Nick Gates, this is probably one of his worst games of the year, and he'll probably tell you the same thing. And I love Nick Gates. He plays hard. He plays with the right intent, but like that's tough. Like it's 3rd and 22 under any situation is incorrect. Then you get to the next series, and we're going to talk about this one more. We talked about this more on take 5, but you throw the stick route, right? And it's not stick. It's basically hitches on one side and stick on the other side. And you overthrow a hitch with off coverage at 10 yards. That isn't going to be a first down, but it's probably going to be a 2nd and 2. And then you run the ball, good run by Chris Rodriguez. And then you have another incompletion on a man coverage on 3rd and 6. And that one is really kind of interesting to me because I don't hate the decision to throw the ball to Jahan Dotson on that crossing route because it's like coming into your vision, but the ball's way behind, right? It's way behind the receiver. So if you're going to make that throw, put it out in front. And also in that situation, you have Terry in a one-on-one man situation, and he wins pretty demonstratively. So again, I don't know what the progression is. I don't know what this is, but I'm kind of like, can we get the ball to Terry a little bit quicker there? Maybe potentially get him started earlier. I like the matchup.
And that's one of the big criticisms that fans has. Like, how can Terry not be involved more? And it's like, well, sometimes it's because Sam chose to go somewhere else against man coverage. Yeah. Giants played a lot of man coverage.
100%. And then next series, right? You're in what I would call a 65 protection. So tight end stays in, back stays in, 7-man pro. Everyone's picked up. Great completion to Curtis Samuel on the what I would call lightning. So like a kind of a hitch or a deeper hitch. So great job, right? Next play, we get an empty. Awesome. Love this decision. Lets you see that it's man coverage. They check to a pressure. Who cares? Leno's a little bit in between. I would say he should probably squeeze it. There's a guy in his inside gap. Squeeze that. Leave the end for Sam. Bates is on a snag route. Ball's out. Bates is wide open. Overthrow, probably because the pressure's in Sam's face. And Bates maybe takes a tick too long on the route. And that's one of the things about this defense I think that Wink Martindale presents is like you can work through this stuff all week in practice. We can work that zero check. We can work the pressure looks. We can work the squeezes. But they're a little bit better at it. It's a little bit faster. So it's a little off, right? Sam misses the throw. Bates is maybe a little long. Leno's got to squeeze a little bit quicker. All those things are true on that play, but it leads to an incomplete pass that's ineffective. That's ineffective football, right? So instead of being in a manageable down and distance, right, now you're in 3rd and 4. So great. 3rd and 4 ends up being a sack, right? And that's the one where they have the mental mistake with Sadiq and Nick Gates, right? Sadiq's trying to help out on Dexter Lawrence, trying to double team the best player on the defense, gets a little overzealous. They're running a T side, so Dexter Lawrence is stunting to the left. Leonard Williams is stunting, looping around Dexter Lawrence, and basically gets a free run up at the A gap. So in that sequence, that's 10 plays. How many mental mistakes did I just describe? How many physical mistakes did I just describe? Not only by the offensive line, but by Sam in terms of missing throws and maybe missing reads. I don't know for sure, but that's one more drive in the first quarter. That's it. That's the first quarter right there. That is the first quarter. Those 10 plays are the first quarter, or maybe 12 plays. And to me, that encapsulates the offensive inefficiency. So there's quick game in there. There's max protect. There's empty to identify rushers. Love all of those things. We don't execute.
Right.
And it's not one person's fault, but in terms of things that we had talked about in the week, let's leave guys in protection. Let's find a quick game. Let's get an empty. Let him find his best match. Let's do those things. And we don't hit it. And the sack on 3rd and 6 comes off a 4-man rush. Like, it's not even like they're bringing crazy Wink Martindale pressure. Like,
that's one of the things that blew my mind about watching this film is you go back and you're like, they got a sack with a 6-man pressure against 7-man protection, or a 4-man pressure against a 5-man. Like, they were often -1 on rushers versus protectors and getting sacked or pressure.
Yeah.
Like, that's
obviously not always, but
not always, but like multiple times in the game. Like,
Right.
I think half the sacks are like that, at least. So it's the kind of thing where you then talk about, okay, well, why is that happening? Some of that does wind up reflecting on Sam as the guy who's calling and identifying the protections. And there's like one where he should have slid the line, like a pretty obvious, the Pinnock sack when 27 comes off the edge. And it's like, that's not a man-to-man defender over there. There's no man for him to defend. That dude's blitzing. Right. How does he wind up getting identified as a potential blitzer? And like, yes, Sam has no time to get that throw off. There's nothing he could have post-snap, but there's something he could have done pre-snap. I do think also, and again, I know how this is going to come off. I can hear the comments of like people saying, oh, you just want to put it on Sam. Like, when Gates loses quickly, that's on Nick Gates.
Right.
But could Sam manipulate the pocket a little bit? Like, there is a little bit of room to slide. Yeah. And so like, there's things like that where we've talked about prior to this game, prior to this was going to be an issue. One of the areas where Sam needs to grow dramatically if he's going to have a long, successful career is his ability to move within the pocket. That, when pressure comes and you just settle up, like, it's better than a turnover. But can you find ways to move within the pocket? Because sometimes there is space. And so, quick losses, it's really hard. You just go, oh God, I'm dead. But there are times where you wonder if we're going to say, can this guy become an elite quarterback? An elite quarterback evades the sack and is able to move within the pocket. So like, again, layers, levels, nuance, all of this kind of stuff. Ultimately, like, whose fault is it? Yeah, it's Nick Gates' fault for losing immediately to Dexter Lawrence. Right. And that happens because he's Dexter Lawrence. But also some of these sacks come on 2nd and 3rd and long, where if Sam makes the easy throw to Curtis on 1st down, you're not in that situation in the first place.
Yeah, and it is like it's a combination of errors. Like, I just was looking ahead to my drive recap, and the next drive, like, they're trying to run a sprint to the left, right? Trying to run a sprint to the left, and Logan Tom blocks the wrong guy. He blocks the guy that has him in man coverage as opposed to the rusher. Like, I'm a tight end. I've been in that situation before. I probably made that same mistake, right? So it happens, but like, that's something like, if you block the right guy, you're to the perimeter. Sam has more time to throw, and instead of throwing an incompletion to Terry, which might have been a PI, you can kind of let that marinate a little bit more and hit Jahan Dotson, who is wide open on the corner, right? Okay, and then you just mentioned the sack where you miss ID. Like, this is tough to me. That's a tough miss ID, and it doesn't happen all the time. But again, this is the 15th play of the game, and we've had like 8 mental mistakes or physical mistakes. It's just not good football. So we've got it looks like they're going to bring an all-out pressure. They're leaving a tight end in to the offensive left, backs into the offensive left, okay? That it is very clear, based on the allocation of offensive players, number 27 is going to come free on this. Like, he's the guy. So why is the slide not going to the offensive right? They slide to the offensive left. They book that guy. They book 27, when in my mind, you have a back and a tight end. The back can account for the linebacker. We need to slide to that guy, leave the tight end alone on the defensive end, and everyone's accounted for. And so I don't know we don't know the rules there. Like, we don't know what kind of protection call they're in, because I think that's something fans need to understand is there are probably 10 to 15 protection calls, and they all have different rules versus different looks. But I'm just saying, if that's Matt Ryan, he's going up there and saying, hey, man, we're going full slide right, tight end, be a man here, block this guy for 3 seconds, I'm going to get the ball out. And I don't know where Sam is in terms of that progression, but think about that. 15 plays, and of the plays I've just described, all of those are what I would characterize as losing football. Like, you can't win with that level of execution, mentally, physically, right? And it's not like the guys, I don't make it very clear, it's not like the guys are not trying. They're trying very hard. They're just not always doing the right thing. Like, the throw to Curtis is to maybe to me encapsulates this game more than anything, where he misses him high and outside on the little hitch route. It's like, right read, protection's good, route's good, footwork's good, ball sails up and out. And it's like a lot of good there, but the result of the play is a negative. And it's like, and that was the first half, really. And a lot of the third quarter was just, they couldn't execute at a level to compete with the Giants on a down in, down out basis. And some of it's on Sam, some of it's on the O-line, some of it's on the receivers. Like, there was one where, and some of it's on the officials. Like, there's one where Jahan runs a great route, runs like a comeback, and the DB, I don't know what the ref's looking at, just literally grabs him around the waist. And I'm like, that is holding at a minimum, probably defensive pass interference. So there was, and Terry had one, and the refs kind of seemed very content to let those guys play ball in the perimeter. And that's
the intentional grounding call on Sam is horrible. Like, he's clearly throwing it to where Robinson is going, and then Robinson stops. That's not intentional grounding. And
usually they're pretty, like Matt Ryan said this on the broadcast. He's like, usually they're pretty liberal with that. Like Kyle used to have a thing, like if the quarterback throws the ball, even if it's out of bounds, like sprint like to the football and act like you were going to catch it, and they usually give it to you. And B-Rob's right there. And so I was a little surprised, honestly, that they gave him that they called that on him. And again, like that's, to me, the refs, like, people want to complain about the refs. They're like the weather, right? And like, everyone's playing in bad weather. We benefited from some aggressive, what I would call aggressive defensive back play by Benjamin St-Juste in that game. And we'll talk about Benjamin St-Juste in a minute, but he had maybe the best game I've seen him play. Like, he was just on one in terms of coverage and tight coverage. But again, he's a handsy guy. They didn't call some stuff, and that was how they were calling the game. So I don't want to say that was a thing, but in terms of offensive production, that's definitely going to mitigate effectiveness, and Terry had that one that I just described on the sprint where the guy literally grabs and pulls him. Terry's off
on the left sideline, the kind of deepish one.
Yeah, he grabs and pulls him. Terry's a little off balance and the ball hits him in the chest. But I'm like, that's a hold. Like, if I'm an offensive player, I'm like looking at the ref like, what the heck are we doing here? Especially if I'm Terry, I'm going to get up and be pretty demonstrative about it. But like I said, goes both ways. So there's a lot of that stuff in this game. And if I'm putting myself in the offensive coordinator's shoes, like, I'm ridiculously frustrated, because some of that stuff, like, some of that is New York doing a good job and forcing us in errors and creating complicated looks. But some of those are unforced errors, man. That's us not owning the game plan the way we need to own it. So.
they get real Icarus-y. To go back to your Greek mythology days. You remember the story of Icarus, Anthony?
Not quite, Frank.
What do they teach you at Georgetown Prep? Icarus, the guy who flies too close to the sun.
Nope.
What do they teach you at Georgetown? Anthony, I think you just put your job at risk at Georgetown Prep.
Why?
There's no way that they did not teach you the story of Icarus at Georgetown Prep.
We actually did a lot of Greek mythology, though. We didn't talk about Icarus flying too close to the sun.
Yes, you did. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We stream live daily every second of the show on YouTube at the Team 980 as well. Subscribe if you haven't, and you'll get a nice little easy notification when we go live. It also allows you to easily watch the show when you fire up your YouTube app or go to YouTube's website. Will be one of the first recommendations whenever we are live, which starts at 4 o'clock every day. You can also catch the Take Command pregame show there Sundays with your boy and Logan Paulson. All right, Anthony Haney, super producer of this fine radio show. Are you ready to hit the magic button, put on our hazmat suits, and dive on into the darkest parts of the internet?
We tried to warn them. They didn't listen.
Yes!
Every week, the Hoffman Show goes into the belly of the beast.
We read those comments, baby.
Never read the comments.
All right, if you're new, this is how it works. We post stuff on YouTube. You comment on it. If your comment is worthy of, not even say if your comment is worthy, because we can't get to all of them. There's literally hundreds upon hundreds of comments this week on a variety of videos. But if we think they're particularly thought-provoking, we'll read them here on the show. That's how this works. The places that you can find our YouTube comments that we peruse through for this segment include my page, at Craig Hoffman. That is where most of them come from. But also at the Team 980, where we post on-demand content from this show. So if you miss a part of the show, the best of it always goes on the YouTube page. All right, so that's how it works. Let's get to the comments. And the comments, I mentioned there's a lot of them. And actually, Anthony, I'm going to double-check real quick. On the 1st and 10 this week, which was titled Sam Howell was the biggest factor in the Commanders' loss, there are currently 163 comments on that video alone. Yeah. There's another 96 comments on our Instant Reaction Take Command podcast. There's dozens of others on other videos. So there was a lot. And so what I tried to do is, instead of going through by video, I tried to kind of lump them into categories in terms of the responses to Sam Howell, the offensive line, EB, all this kind of stuff. And first, there was kind of the general reaction comments, is what I would call them. Like our guy, William Bontrager, who has no affiliation, no relation to the company that makes cycling shoes. We discovered that in a previous edition of Never Read the Comments. He goes sarcastically, "How dare you question Wolf Jesus or insinuate he isn't perfect? Ree!" The cognitive dissonance of people that convinced themselves that Howell was our franchise savior rather than a potentially great work in progress who will need time to grow is palpable in the comments. And I knew when I said, like, hey, Sam wasn't very good at this. And I didn't do it. I think it's important to say, like, I didn't do it because of being backward. Like, that's hot takey.
This is you. This is your fault. We gotta go there. And this is what he started.
That is true. William presented it, and I certainly presented William's comment in a dramatic reading, fashion. How would you think of my dramatic reading, Anthony?
I thought it was pretty good.
Thanks. I mean, my acting skills are not zero, but I'm no actor. Point being, like, I can't not give you the analysis because it is going to cause people to be angry on the internet. And the reality is, like, Sam wasn't very good, and that doesn't mean that he's done forever, but, like, he's not above criticism. He's not beyond reproach. He is young, and there are certain expectations and I think factors that contribute that other people will take the blame for. At the end of the day, he can't just do nothing.
This is you.
He's
This is your fault.
So
We gotta go there.
he's got to get somebody to
And this is what
he's got
he
to
started.
criticize or be critical of his play, good or bad. And this week it happened to be bad. And that's why I like this comment from Jamel, at Jamel Payne 1313. At the end of the day, we're living in a microwave world where people want instant results. The world don't work that way. It's been 7 weeks. And that's an important reminder, too, is like, hey, Sam's going to have bad games. He's a young player at a very difficult position with way too much on his plate. And I say way too much on his plate. I don't remember if this comes up later in the comments, so I'm just going to say it now. But, like, he both has too much on his plate, but also they've taken a lot off of his plate. Like, he doesn't have a lot of freedom at the line of scrimmage to do a million things. They're not using a ton of motion. Like, they've stripped down this offense to try to make it easier for Sam to be a master of a few things. The problem is they're then asking him to take there's limited number of tools and use them like crazy because he's throwing 75 almost percent of the time. He's throwing at a higher rate than anyone else in the league. So it is kind of a weird thing where, like, in Minnesota, Kirk has a ton of things he can do with the line of scrimmage, a ton of adjustments he can make. He's been in that offense a bunch of years now, and it's a similar offense to what he ran here in a lot of respects. So, like, he's got a mastery that when Kevin O'Connell asked Cousins to throw it 70% of the time, Kirk is kind of equipped to do that. He has the tools. Sam's like, I got a hammer, I got a screwdriver, and this problem might need an Allen wrench. And the answers aren't always there. So I think that is something to keep in mind is, like, there are limitations on him that are reflective of him. And then there's also a lot being asked of him all at the same time. So there's kind of those general thoughts was one category of comment. Then you had comments like this from Jimmy at Jimmy NR4KR. The number one reason for their performance against the Giants was play calling. Everybody knew Wink was going to blitz. The team was not prepared for it. EB failed to prepare. He put the young quarterback in a knowing situation. And I would categorize this kind of comment as a comment that I hate. Here's why I hate this comment. Eric Bieniemy didn't prepare or fail to prepare. He failed to prepare an optimal plan. Something that was readily apparent as he changed it, not fast enough, but did change it in the second half. He enhanced different parts of the plan than he had initially planned on emphasizing. They prepared a plan. They ran more max protect on Sunday than they have in any game this season. They ran a lot of quick game. Tried to get the ball out of Sam's hands quickly, whether it was true quick game or longer developing concepts that had a quick game element, and Sam with the anticipation that Sam would just take the quick thing. Sam didn't. He missed throws. He missed reads. The timing's a little bit off, and there's no chance for yards after catch. Obviously, the offensive line, even for quick game, couldn't protect because they lost so quickly on some of these plays. And sometimes it's the sack. Sometimes it's like a pressure. There's a quick game to John Bates that should have been an easy 5-yard gain and probably a first down, if not a bigger gain, because he would have had space to run. And Bates runs the route a little bit slowly, doesn't turn around fast enough. Sam doesn't get the ball out quite as fast as he should. And Charles Leno doesn't squeeze the protection in the way that he should, probably based off what everyone else does. And because of that, all three things lead to an incompletion. That's not on EB. Like, the players have to execute. And this is something that I think that seems to get lost amongst some folks. I don't know. Like, I think everyone knows this, but, like, maybe we need to be reminded. There is no perfect play call that is execution proof. There is no play you can call that works with bad execution. The players have to execute something. And just because the plan wasn't optimal doesn't mean it was terrible or that there wasn't a plan in the first place. It's like there was one comment we got. It's like, EB has no protection plans. It's like, no, they call a protection on every single play. Whether it's the right protection, whether it's the best protection you could have had, those are different stories. And maybe that's what you're trying to say, but if you're going to do that, then say that. Don't say the silly thing that actually isn't remotely true and is kind of insulting to a professional who spends his entire life preparing for these games, probably at the expense of, seeing his family and such. Like, we can do this in a way that's both intelligent and respectful, is all I would say. It's something that I strive to do on the show, and something that I'm not afraid to call out if I think it's silly in the comments. So yeah, like, it wasn't optimal, and they should have moved the pocket more. They've got to find things that get Sam comfortable early in games, but to EB's credit, previously that had been quick game. Sam has been pretty efficient in that department this year, to the point that a lot of us were saying, hey, where is it earlier in games? More quick game. They called it. They didn't execute it. Sam didn't. The O-line didn't. The receivers didn't. And so if that's the case, what's EB supposed to do? Eventually you change it, obviously. But you don't want to change it too fast. I know I'm rambling a little bit at this point, but like you don't want to also abandon it. You spend all week thinking this is the best plan. You don't want to abandon it if you could just execute a little bit better and get it working. Because it's there. It's open. Just this block, this throw, this whatever. So there's that. The next bucket of comments here on Never Read the Comments, the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Is the, Anthony, I'm going to call this the I have solutions bucket. People who think that they can fix the offense in the comment section. You know these are my favorite, right?
I'm already knowing.
Yeah. Let's see how they are. By the way, this one comes from someone whose handle is @suityourself, which I think is pretty funny. It's @SOOT yourself. Suit yourself. Which is kind of like...
He almost pooted on himself.
You couldn't wait to play that one.
Actually, that wasn't pre-planned.
Oh.
I just thought of it in the moment.
He almost pooted on himself.
That's J.D. McKissick, everybody, if you're new to the show. He said that into our microphones last training camp about Antonio Gibson. Go back and find it. It's a good time. Anyway, @SuitYourself says, I've said it before and I'll say it again. Enough with the gun runs already. It's unbelievable to think that EB, as a former running back, has nothing more to offer in the run game. So I am with you that I prefer running the football from under center. But you, @SuitYourself, and I, Craig Hoffman, I'm not playing quarterback for the Washington Commanders. And unfortunately, it's not as simple as just saying, no more gun runs, we're running everything from under center. Because you can't have it be a dead giveaway that every time you're under center, you're running the football. You have to be able to pass from under center. And Sam Howell doesn't really like to drop back and pass from under center. Sam is much more comfortable sitting back in the shotgun and getting a clearer picture. And I get it. Like, if I was a quarterback, I mean, even just like if you play pickup football, like you probably would rather sit back and like get an extra couple of yards worth of vision, width of vision, depth of vision, versus being under center and everything's kind of right there. You have to drop back and you're moving as you're trying to create the picture. Like, drop back passing is really hard. And there's a reason why, even for years before everything was from gun, like, third down passing situation, quarterback's back in the gun. Like, there's a reason for that. And as teams have become more pass happy on first and second down, it's like, okay, well, if we want to keep defenses off balance, what can we do both from? We can do both from the gun better than we can do both from under center, because we're basically useless passing from under center. Not basically useless. That's too strong. We're less effective passing from under center than we are less effective running from the gun. And so what it really is going to take is Antonio Gibson, Brian Robinson especially, because I think Chris Rodriguez has been pretty good, is being a little bit more patient and understanding that when you're in the gun, the timing of the runs are a little bit different. They've got to get that right, and they can be more effective in the run game. Also, you need better vision. But can you get Sam to be more efficient as a passer from under center so that you can run more stuff? Because, you also got to block it. Like, they ran one play action from under center on Sunday to try to keep the Giants honest, and they blew the protection, and Sam got murdered as soon as he turned around. So it's not as simple as saying, like, hey, just run the ball from under center. These gun runs stink. Like, I don't disagree that gun runs are worse, and it has to do with your angles, your timing. There's a bunch of stuff that, we could get into on a detail level of why gun runs are probably inferior to runs under center for a running back and an offensive line in terms of the angles it sets up blocking-wise. But the reality is, worse than that is being predictable. And being predictable is a no-go in the NFL, so it's not as simple as saying just run under center, sadly. At Lyle Paradise, 2764 has another solution. I would like to see the offense come out and hurry up, no huddle offense right out the gate. It may just reduce some of the predictability that we've been showing and also reduce the amount of sacks that we give up. You don't have to do it every series, but it will make the defense wonder what's coming next with very little time to think about it. Make the defense play defense. Oh, the defenses are playing defense against this Commanders offense. That is part of the problem. I don't hate the idea of occasionally getting in some tempo. And I do think it's one thing you can do to slow down a pass rush a little bit because blitzes have to be called. And if you get to the line of scrimmage quickly, then often you can, put defenses in simpler coverage structures because they're more concerned about communicating, hey, let's make sure we get a call in and get lined up versus, okay, let's get the perfect call in. Let's call this blitz. Let's call this thing. So are there situations where you could go hurry up? Yes, but I would also be super hesitant to do that because one of the ways where the defense has gotten in trouble this year is if they're on the field too much. And it's not so much on the field in number of plays, but it's like how quickly do those plays happen? And if you're not clicking on offense and you go hurry up, all you do is go 3 and out faster, which is less rest time for the defense and a bad formula that will lead to you losing football games. There's a reason teams don't do it. So is there probably a time and place for the Commanders to mix in a little bit tempo? Whether it's a muddle huddle, whether it's kind of a no huddle that's not fast, or like a, hey, let's get it and let's put our foot down and go. Yeah, there's probably some place for that, but it comes with a pretty risky downside that is going to mean that place is a very small little tiny box that you're not going to tap into very often. That's kind of the solutions bucket. Then you had, I thought, some really good, interesting stuff on kind of bigger picture comments. And these two comments kind of go together. At, let's see, Spiros Nichols, 3253. Spiros person, I hope I said that right. Sometimes, Anthony, you just get the names and numbers and everything, and because there's a username that gets mushed together, it's hard to tell where one word stops and the next one starts. Maybe it's Spy Ron Nichols.
Yeah, I could see where you're getting at.
What's your best guess on this one?
Spiros Nichols.
Yeah. That's like my email. The start of my email is C Hoffman, and then I have some numbers and, add an internet service provider. But I often, it's so funny because I'll, sir, what's your email? It's like C Hoffman. Okay, I've got Choffman. And you're like, it's Craig Hoffman.
C Hoffman. It's real simple.
Yeah, we got is it Choffman?
Aspiro?
Sure. Nah. Anyway, the point is, a quarterback with 7 games of experience deserves to have a competent offensive line. In the ever-evolving playmaker, often quarterback now, center league, there's a timeless constant, and that constant is competent offensive line play. The very bedrock that characterized the successful 2 decades of this franchise has been neglected by this staff and previous staffs. This is not uncommon in today's NFL, however, but it is unfortunate and even reckless with for a team with a promising QB. Again, I would say in most circumstances, like this offensive line is competent, but they're not good, nevertheless excellent, which brings us to Taylor Strickland's comment, Taylor Strickland 415. Earlier in the week, we had talked about Drew Brees and like how did Drew succeed being the height that Sam is, where some of the height stuff seems to be bothering Sam a little bit. And he makes a great point. Or maybe Taylor, could be either way. Drew Brees also had all-pro, Pro Bowl guards and tackles the majority of his time with the Saints. From 2006 to 2020, Brees' tenure, the Saints had 11 different guards and tackles make the Pro Bowl, most in which made the Pro Bowl all-pro 23 years combined. Sam is playing with a line that might have 1 or 2 starting caliber linemen. Again, I wouldn't go that far, but it is worth pointing out that, like, even the guys that I think are, like, good caliber, like Sam Cosmi, for instance, Sam probably is going to continue to develop into a pretty good right guard. It's his first year playing right guard. Sadiq, inexperienced. And Nick Gates, not that good, not that experienced. Leno's been pretty solid at left tackle. His pass win rates, his run block rates, like all that stuff's super high. He's one of the best guys if you look at the analytics in the whole league. He's got a lot of penalties, though, so there's that. And then Wiley has been kind of exactly the very average in terms of percentage, percent wins that you would have expected from Andrew Wiley. there's so many dropbacks that the total numbers of pressures and sacks given up that Wiley has are some of the highest in the league. But again, he's got more snaps in protection than anybody in football. So I think this is like combining into a good point that it's not that this O-line is incompetent or terrible or the worst in the league, but if you're going to have a quarterback that has these specific deficiencies, he's not very big, so you need a little bit more space for him to operate in. He doesn't move well in the pocket, and he holds the ball really long. You needed to have as elite of an offensive line as possible to maximize the other excellent capabilities and characteristics that Sam Howell has, because he does have a lot of really special talent. And that is being masked and hidden and diminished by the fact that the offensive line play isn't as good as it could have been if you had really invested heavily in this position over the course of years. And as a result, you're not getting the best out of this offensive line. Looks worse than it is, and the quarterback looks worse than it is. Where if you had just taken some time to bulk up and beef up this offensive line, you'd be getting the best. Obviously, you'd be getting better line play, but you'd also be getting the best out of Sam Howell. All right, last but not least, Anthony, we had some pretty good comments of the week this week. One is just a funny comment on its own, and the other was an exchange I had with someone. At Rio Grande 1964 says, this was actually on the interview that we did with Michael Phillips, said, "We're trying to build something here," quote unquote, said the captain of a sinking ship. I think that's directed at Ron Rivera. That's just me.
Definitely is.
Yeah. And then there was this. T-Ferg581 says, this was about 1st and 10. "It shows me why Craig has no idea what he's talking about." To which I responded, this is one of my new favorite snarky responses. "I'm sorry, who are you?" And then T-Ferg says, "Someone with an opinion that doesn't think you know what you're talking about." And I responded to that. So he thinks he's a guy with an opinion who doesn't think I know what I'm talking about. And I said, "Wow, we're the Spider-Man meme." Because I think he's a guy with an opinion who doesn't know what he's talking about. To which T. Ferg responded, "Well, I don't agree with you, but I do think what you just said was fun."
That is a comment of the week. I think that's funnier than the we're trying
ship?
we're trying to build something.
Yeah. A little humanity, a little humor can go a long way. We don't have to agree on everything, but if we can at least see each other as people on this here dark part of the internet, the comments section, then it's a little bit more fun for everybody. That's Never Read the Comments. Leave yours at Craig Hoffman on YouTube, at the Team 980 as well. Make sure you're subscribed. And if you're watching this later on demand, like the video as well so other people can find it. Coming up next, our Wizards Media Day interview with Wes Unseld Jr., yes, the head coach of the Wizards, in your earballs just an hour before his team takes the floor against the Pacers to start the 2023 NBA season. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. Be joined in just a few minutes live from the broadcast booth in Indianapolis by Dave Johnson, the radio voice of the Wizards, here on the Team 980 on our first Wizards game day of the season. That is coming up in just a little bit. But right now, how about you hear from the head coach? Wes Unseld Jr. sat down with us at Wizards Media Day, and we've been waiting to play this for you for tonight. And, well, time to wait no longer. Here's my chat with the Wizards head coach.
Head coach Wes Unseld Jr. with us. Wes, how we doing, man?
Great, thanks. Thanks
been
for
a
having me.
whole week since I saw you. We don't have media members playing mediocre basketball in front of us.
Oh, thank God.
I did razz Will a little bit. Dawkins just sat down for an interview that people will be able to hear a little bit later. But I did razz him a little bit for his sprint off the bench, cherry pick, stand on the block. He quickly brought up that he brought his team back later after I left. So
that is true. They were down big, and I think it was a 20-plus point deficit.
Woo.
So they walked them down, made it a one possession game. So kudos to them.
Kudos to them, whatever that's worth. Speaking of Will, I want to start the actual questions with you, talking about the relationship between Will, Michael, you. Will had actually a really interesting quote, and he talked about the relationship between like the top and the coaching staff. He's like, let's be clear, Wes is a part of that. Wes is part of the top. And I mentioned that just as context, not in contrast to what it's been, but I do want to ask you the contrast of like what the working relationship was like with Tommy these last couple of years and how things have changed with Will and Michael in the fold here.
Well, Tommy and I had a great working relationship. I mean, it was a relationship of constant communication. We would touch base several times a day. I think the biggest difference is, the collaboration of other departments, on top of my communication with Will and Mike. More so with a leadership team and a group. That they want to operate that way and make sure there's a steady flow of information going back and forth.
Yeah, that makes sense. Obviously, it's going to change as well once you guys get into the season. Analytics, all that kind of stuff that gets passed from a front office to a coaching staff. How have you been able to, with some of your new hires, integrate people who can get you the information you want, maybe some of the information they want you to have that's different than stuff you've used in the past? And how's that, like, how much pre-planning have you guys done for that adaptation process?
Quite a bit. Some of it is, getting people up to speed with what we've done, looking back and dialing into those things. Are those things efficient? Are those things the right things? Are those the right metrics? Is this the best process? And that's the, one of many takeaways from Will and Mike. They're very process driven. Very reflective, as far as what we're doing and making sure that putting our players first, the staff, but being mindful of every single detail.
So one of the things that I think is going to be interesting this season, and perhaps it's most interesting from your seat, is this is very process oriented. I think fans, media, I'm certainly trying to take a long view on what's being built here. You're the coach who lives it day to day. Like, the wins and losses matter to you and the players more than anybody else. So how do you balance that very clear directive that, like, we're about the small wins, we're about this process, with trying to win every basketball game that you guys lace it up for?
Yeah, we want to make sure we're competitive, and that might not translate to wins. But you want teams to walk away from playing the Wizards and know that, we had to play to beat this team. We have to compete at the highest level. You want our guys to enjoy competing, enjoy the connectivity that it takes to be a really, of course, we'll have to find some measures, I think we've measured some things internally, but to see the day-to-day improvement, the week-to-week improvement, the month-to-month improvement individually and collectively, I think we keep stacking those, we'll be heading in the right direction.
It's year one for them, but it's year 3 for you. Like, is this going to be a test of your own patience?
I think I'm a pretty patient guy.
Yeah.
And I think there's a vibe of excitement. I think, having these guys here since early September, they're connecting and developing some on-court synergy. It's it's a really good competitive vibe. And I think there's a lot of joy in the room. Guys are, starting to show a little bit of themselves and a little bit more of their personality. So it's new and different at the same time, but it's nice to also have some pieces back, on the returning team.
How is the vibe different when it's a bunch of younger guys? Like a guy like Brad had been here for 10 years, and obviously when you're that and you're the face of the franchise and you're second all-time leading scorer, you're Bradley Beal in the Washington Wizards. Like that sets a certain tone from the top. With that gone, how is the vibe different?
Well, to your point, it is a young group, but I also think it's a mature group. We have some young players who've been integral parts of, a championship team, of really good teams, playoff teams. So there's a balance of, the youthful movement, but then you have some steady presence on the veteran side. Guys like Gallo, Taj, Mike Muscala, been around for a bit. I look at Tyus Jones as a young vet. We'll continue to see Kuz take a step forward in that role. And then Jordan, of course, who he's won a championship and already at the age of 24 has that experience that we all covet.
Wes Unseld Jr. with us here on the Hoffman Show at Wizards Media Day. So I think the most interesting comments, and I think I've asked you about this before, but like now with the summer to reflect on it, the most interesting thing to come out of the end of last year for me was Corey's comments about not really having an identity, changed night to night based off who was healthy, which was never the same guys. For you as a coach, like to spend a summer cultivating what this identity is going to be, like what have you kind of landed on? What's the message to your team as you get started of this is who we are?
Well, I think the first thing is, the competitive piece is one thing. That's going to be a given, but modernizing how we play. I think playing with a little bit more tempo, finding ways to generate more threes. And I think that's, regardless of who's out there, we can control those areas. Our competitiveness, our shot profile, our connectivity. They don't always have empirical backing, but I do think that tends to lead us in the right direction and contribute to winning.
One of my favorite phrases of yours is shot diet. I love a Wes Unseld shot diet quote.
I need to be on a diet.
We don't tolerate that kind of talk on this show. We're very positive on that regard, but a shot diet we can talk about. How do you ensure that the shot, like one, you kind of touched on it there, more threes, but like how do you shape the shot diet to be the right shots at the right times by the right players?
Yeah, I think the one piece that often gets overlooked is when. I think a lot of guys understand the why, that the value and the overall efficiency for certain areas on the floor is higher than others. We don't want to live in a world of black and white. There's a lot of gray in the game. Certain guys it's a good shot for this guy, might not be a great shot for that guy. But, it's an area that we want to try to reinforce. Obviously, you want to get to the rim, open up corner threes, above the break threes, paint twos and the non-paint twos being the less effective. But understanding late in the clock, we want the best possible possession we can generate. So if that's a tough contested mid-range two, then so be it. We don't want to just say that that is totally out of the game. Certainly a strength for some guys, but want to minimize and hunt those high-value shots early. Minimize the suboptimal in the meat of the possession, and in the possession, find the best opportunity we can.
What are your early impressions of Jordan?
There's a youthful maturity, and I think he's done it organically where he's not coming in from a space where he knows it all or he's experienced it all. He's asking a lot of questions and trying to connect and get to know his teammates. Then also he's showing us what he likes. Certain areas on the floor, certain actions he's very efficient in. So it's been great to just kind of sit back and let it play out and just kind of watch from afar. And, he's a dynamic, guard. I think he can take a lot of steps forward in a number of areas, but he's already shown us that, he's capable.
As a man with a very nice beard, what do you think of Jordan's beard?
It's it'll come. It'll come.
More on the youthful than the maturity side of the youthful maturity.
I tell you, I'll take the hair over the beard. So we could trade.
There's that. I am so curious for you as a guy who came in, touted, highly skilled defensive coach, and certainly that is something that you have in your bag. You look at a player like Jordan, who, from everything I've heard, his work ethic is outrageous. But he's also had a very, difficult defensive, some very difficult defensive moments in high leverage situations for Golden State. Like the tape is the tape; it is what it is. How do you leverage that work ethic and that desire and that maturity into efficacy on the defensive end for him?
Well, it starts with the will and the want. And he's shown that he wants to be good. He's got the physical tools to do it. And of course, you're going to have to you'll have to live through some youthful mistakes. Obviously, those high pressure moments, it matters. Those become magnified. But I think going through those experiences, he'll be better for it. I think just him dialing into, being a coverage expert, understanding exactly what needs to be done in each and every possession, that takes time, that takes reps.
I think one of the other interesting things for you this year is going to be managing the rotation. There's a lot of players that feel like they're at very similar levels.
Mm-hmm.
So how much of a feel do you have right now for what your rotation looks like, or do you think that is something that is definitely going to evolve, or do you feel like going into the season like, hey, as long as we're not, there'll be injury management, all those kinds of things, but like I actually kind of know what it's going to look like?
You have it on paper, always in pencil.
Yeah.
But you do want a healthy degree of competitive preseason to see where it shakes out, along with the right fit. I think it's important. It's good to have your best players out there, and going to rely on those best players as much as you can. But we also have to find minutes for young guys. And I think doing that in the season will allow them to get through some of the minutia of youth and understanding, and we'll be better for it later in the year.
So two guys I want to ask you about exactly in that vein. Bilal, where does he fit? You said the other day at your season opening presser, like he's probably going to get some G League time, which I think made a couple people go, whoa, okay, considering how good he was in Summer League. But where does he fit in the big team rotation?
He's going to play, and I can't tell you how much, I can't tell you when, but I think
what in terms of positionally, like does he have the flexibility to go 2 through 4, 2 through 5?
I think he does. I really do, and we'll be patient with him. I think he's going to show us some things as we go, but the biggest thing is for him to dial into habits. With his consistency, it's got to be a day-to-day thing. Just making that work ethic. He's got the work ethic, but kind of channeling what that looks like for him every day. And he's got to just find ways to stack those days together consecutively. And I think he'll be a different player by the end of the year.
Other guys, Johnny, where does he? You guys have a ton of different guards. He's got a pretty unique skill set. I feel like the defensive stopper kind of mold in that. How does that fit in?
I think likewise. He's going to have to find ways to carve out minutes. It'll be earned. I think the experience he had toward the end of last year was telling. He's certainly capable. A lot of it just, based on opportunity. But, once again, there's got to be a level of consistency with it.
All right, that was Wes Unseld Jr. with us not that long ago, Wizards Media Day earlier this month. What kind of lineup does he actually put out tonight? Dave Johnson has the answers live from the broadcast booth. Next here on the Hoffman Show, Team 980, your home for Wizards basketball. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And it is our pleasure to welcome in on a Wizards game day, as we will each and every game day that we are on this season, the play-by-play voice for the Washington Wizards here on the radio, Mr. Dave Johnson. Dave, how are you, sir?
You know, I'm doing well. And we talked about the versatility of this Wizards team, and it really hit home to me today in the shoot-around, because while they're going through a shoot-around and warm-ups after they go over the opponent and the plays, and they go through some warm-ups, they like to have music going on. So as they were trying to find the right music, all of a sudden Michael Jackson and Billie Jean started playing, which I don't know if I've heard that song in 10 years. And, I think our entire team wasn't born when that was a hit. Yet they were grooving to Not My Lover, Billie Jean, whatever. However he sings. I'm not going to sing Michael Jackson, but in other words,
probably smart.
If it turns out to be a good season, just remember, I told you, I had a good feeling thanks to Billie Jean.
Okay, that's definitely good. I think in the song, Michael doesn't have a good feeling thanks to Billie Jean, but that's a different conversation. Speaking of music, though, let's address this up front. I, Dave, do not have your open ready, and that is a cataclysmic mistake. That's 98% on my fault. We do have some music. We've been working with the team, and actually the team's doing something very cool this year where they're highlighting local DMV artists. And so I've narrowed it down to 2 songs. They gave me access to some of those files. And so I've got 2 songs that I'm choosing between. The other thing I need, though, is some highlights from the preseason. So do you have any calls from the preseason that you particularly loved? And if so, 1, can you tell us about them? And 2, can you have Brian send them over to me?
Yes, no, I fall in love with my calls. That sounds very good. But yeah, I do have, look, it was fun calling. It's always fun calling Daniel Gafford slams or Denny Avdia with his 3-point shot the other night. But the Koulibaly defense and where that's led to some. And of course, Corey Kispert, I don't know if you caught the highlights.
We did.
We do it justice where he had a big slam where, I pulled out what my grandmother always used to say when, you got your intestines rattled. She'd say that'll jar your preserves. And that slam dunk definitely jarred our preserves. And so yeah, I will share some of our moments of the preseason that are near and dear to my heart.
I love that. And I will say my favorite part of the Kispert dunk was in our interview, Corey and I's interview on Media Day. I asked him, what's, you're known as a shooter. What's something that and actually this was a fan question. It was the only fan question I used the entire day. It was a really good one. What's something else you want to be known for? And he goes, you want to know what? I'm kind of tired of being called sneaky athletic. We get it. I'm a white guy. I just want to be known as athletic. And he went out and dunked on someone in the preseason, Dave. It was fantastic. Right.
No, it was, in fact, Kuzma mentioned that as well. So I think, no longer, with that kind of dunk, you're not sneaky anymore.
Nah.
That was demonstrative. And Otto Porter was just getting back into, playing strength. And he's probably thinking, wow, welcome back to the NBA. And he dunked on our good friend Otto Porter, of course, the former Georgetown and Wizards player.
I've told the story before. I won't retell it now, but Otto, as a Georgetown player, ruined my 23rd birthday, so I'm not mad about it. Thanks, Corey, for getting my revenge as a Syracuse alumnus who went back to campus and saw Otto score a career high on my birthday. All right, so that's it. Anthony, let's make sure we flag some Bilal Koulibaly defense, Corey Kispert's dunk, probably something from Jordan's 41-point game, and then Denny had a 3. We'll get a Kuz highlight in there. Bada bing, bada bam. Next time you're on next week, we will have the open ready. Okay.
We'll be all set. Yeah.
As for tonight, one of the things that I asked Wes Unseld Jr., we just played our interview with Wes from Media Day, and one of the things I asked him is, how's this rotation going to work? Who do you start? And he's like, honestly, we need the preseason to figure that out. What do we know about how the Wizards are going to line it up tonight, Dave?
Well, I think, pretty much we started to get a feel for that, but the exception of Denny Avdia, who was injured to start the preseason. So we'll have a backcourt of Tyus Jones and Jordan Poole, Kyle Kuzma in the front court with Denny Avdia. So Avdia just coming off that contract extension on Monday will be in the starting lineup tonight, and then Daniel Gafford. So I don't think there's really any surprises there. I think what not that it's a surprised, but there's no question Paul Coulibaly is going to be a big part of the rotation. So I think for Wizards fans, that's exciting. I mean, we've talked about with Wes over and over again that, they don't want to push him too much, but, he keeps showing that he can take on more. So it's really been, revelation during this past month. And as I told you, I think last time we spoke on Friday in Toronto, I was thinking about watching him in shoot around and just, it's no fear. The moment's not too big for him. And it's not because he's not appreciative of what he's up against and the skill level he's up against. It's because he knows how to play the game at both ends of the floor. And it's going to be exciting to hear what he does tonight.
No doubt about it. And I think we make too much often as NBA consumers of who starts, and it's really about who finishes. And I think that's going to be the interesting thing to watch with, I would say, Coulibaly, Gallinari, and Kispert. I think any of those three could probably find themselves on the floor in the closing moment of a game. And what I think is great is it doesn't seem like this team has a bunch of gigantic egos where if any one of those three takes the spot of anybody of the starting five, and I would expect probably Gafford comes off the floor, you play big and you find one of those guys, whether it's maybe even Gallinari playing center. But I get the sense that this team has gelled very well. The personalities are good enough that there will be some fluidity, and that's going to be okay with the people involved.
Yeah, no, and actually Wes Unseld used the word I had to look up, coalesce well. They coalesce well during
good word, Wes.
Preseason. It's a good word. Well, he's the Johns Hopkins grad. But, you make a great point, though. And I think, this is, I think in years past, okay, got to certain moments and you knew who was going to have the ball and that type of thing. It could be Kuzma. It could be Jordan Poole. If a Corey Kispert is on fire, and listen, I've seen it on the other side when Gallinari gets going, they're not going to be taken out of the game. So, we saw a glimpse of it in preseason against the Knicks. Mike Muscala hasn't forgotten how to play and contribute. This is we keep using the word fun, but it's going to be a team that goes out and competes hard. I think, and it's obvious, the only weakness, I shouldn't say only weakness, but rebounding is going to be a challenge for this team. It's just not built as a strong rebounding team, and we saw that Friday in Toronto. A big reason why the Raptors were able to just run away with that game was the dominance on the board. So that's something the Wizards are going to have to, find a way to overcome. But it starts tonight for real against a Pacers team that has gone from 25 to 35 wins. They're looking to take a next step. So this is their home opener, obviously. They're looking to put on a big show tonight because, if you're going by 10, the next step is 45 wins. I don't know if the Pacers are a 45-win team, but I do know Tyrese Halliburton is a real deal point guard if he stays healthy. He leads a team that has some options. And, again, it's interesting. The Wizards actually drafted, technically, Jarvis Walker, their draft pick.
Right.
But then the trade was made so we could get Coulibaly and they could get Walker. So it's kind of interesting. The first game tonight involves those two players. Both will see time tonight, and both were intertwined on draft night.
Last thing for you, Dave. What year is this for you doing this?
My 27th season tonight.
27.
I always said I'm just trying to keep doing it till I get it right. So I'm still trying.
Maybe this is the year.
And by the way, I hope I'm making sense because that's the other part about NBA arenas. You can probably hear it in the background. I am on the level with the scoreboard, and it is the loudest. I mean, they can hear us in Fort Wayne, Indiana right now, or they can hear the public address announcer. I think there's been quieter Guns N' Roses concerts, and now, this so it's hard to concentrate. But I'm focused. I'm game ready tonight, so I think I got all your questions right.
No, you did. So year 27 is how does year 27 compare to year 15 compare to year 1?
Well, I can tell you year one, I was scared out of my mind. I was nervous. We were in Detroit. We were playing the Pistons. I'd done some television and radio. And I'd still been on radio before, but I still just remember that feeling of nervousness of wow, I better get this right. And I got to admit, there were a couple of plays I didn't get to my liking in that first quarter. And I got to halftime thinking, maybe this is not for me. But, fortunately, we then played Miami. We won dramatically in our home opener. And then I thought, this is a lot of fun. And so I've been very blessed to be on this journey for 27 years. But, look, that's the beauty of every, season. You don't know how the script is going to go. I mean, I've seen some wild things. I mean, we had the period when I started was when Michael Jordan had anointed us the team of the future with Chris Webber and Juwan Howard. It didn't quite work out. We were coming off that playoff year. Then I never thought, Jordan would spend some time in Washington. The period with Gilbert and Antoine and Karan, the big three. And keep in mind, I think this is an important history lesson. That period of time was 2004, 5, 6, 7, in there. Capital One Arena, or MCI was known then, had not been open that long. We didn't have a downtown in D.C. So, as I tell Gilbert and Karan, whether you realize it or not, you were part of suddenly, an awakening in downtown and creating a city vibe. Because, again, back then, the Capitals, this is pre-Ovechkin, it really, energized the city. And so now, look, we're starting a journey now, and we're hoping sooner than later we're talking about a Wizards vibe to go with the Capitals vibe.
No doubt about it. Dave will be there chronicling it all alongside Glenn Consor. I hope to certainly join you guys again for a couple games this season. We'll deal with those details later, but for now, have a phenomenal call, Dave. Send Glenn our best, and we'll talk to you next week when you guys are back here in D.C.
No, I look forward to it. I won't be able to hear anything because I'll be recovering from hearing loss in Indiana, but I look forward to it. I hope folks stick around for the game tonight.
There's a joke somewhere in there about you not having to hear Glenn, but we'll just figure that out later. Thanks, Dave. See ya. All right, that's Dave Johnson, everybody, with us on the Hoffman Show. We get back, we wrap up with real things, real people said into real microphones, and we send it right back to Dave and Glenn for the pregame show here on Wizards opening night on the Team 980.
To warn you, bro, it is a mess in downtown Nashville every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Not even
we moved hotels the next night. I still am waiting on my refund for that. But yeah, we moved hotels the second night.
Wow.
It was fun. You say they rely on them. We went to brunch with my buddy the next day, who is a Nashville native and has lived in Nashville long enough that he remembers when it was more than just the bachelorette capital of the world. And he's like, yeah, we're pretty much on the woo girl economy.
Yeah, that's precisely what's going on. The downtown businesses cater to that. If you try to get it shut down, you're probably the one getting thrown out. It is what it is right now. It's weird, but Nashville, baby. What are you gonna do?
Yeah. So I will add one more small part to this story, and this is the part, frankly, that I've been waiting to tell you all week as well. That was kind of part one. We got quality Yates reaction. Part two, as we leave the hotel the next morning to go to breakfast. Remember, the wall's very thin. So it's not going where you think it's going. But as we walk down the hallway, my dear sweet wife just starts saying in a slightly elevated volume of voice, it's been proven that the later groups stay out and make noise and all this stuff at their bachelorette weekend, the higher the divorce rate.
Oh God!
In the wedding,
so
and also the better
trash,
chances,
basically.
and also the better chances.
Wow. Okay. Okie dokie. So Rachel was pissed, basically.
Yeah, she doesn't have a lot of tolerance for the woo girls. They say on the internet, like, feel free to post stuff, like your friends' photos, do whatever. But like whatever you do for your own well-being, don't read the comments. Comment section, bad idea. What do we do?
We read those comments, baby.
That is exactly what we do. That was a little bit better. I still feel like that one was a little muted. I think sometimes it feels like you build yourself up a little too much, and then sometimes you don't
I
quite
want to
go
go
for it.
screaming all the way. The thing is, though, my mic is a little lower than yours, so maybe I could have actually, did what I really.
Mike also moves. You can go, ooh. Did you know you could play tricks with a microphone?
I think I'll try that next time.
Okay. You want to give another shot? Or you
We read those comments, baby.
There we go. All right. I feel ready now. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And yeah, I'm looking up on the TV screens here in the studio, and it's Wes Hall. It's Jason Smith. It's Chris Miller. It's Drew Gooden. It's basketball time, Anthony.
Basketball is my favorite sport. I like the way
I
you
think
jumping
you
up and
should
down the court.
Let Curtis Blow sing that. Yeah.
Basketball back, baby.
That was rough out of you.
I know.
There's Jordan Poole on my television.
Uh-oh.
He of the 41-point performance against the Knicks in the preseason in 27 minutes at Madison Square Garden. We will see how this Wizards season goes. I think it's going to go better than the experts say, but the experts also expect them to be possibly the worst team in the league.
24 games, right?
24 and a half is the over-under.
24 and a half.
I got to check the apps and see if I can squeeze a bet in before I get out of here today.
I mean, if they lose tonight, you might be able. You
You
might
mean
have
get a better
odds.
number?
Yeah,
That's a good point. Maybe
but I don't think they lose tonight.
we'll see. I mean, the Pacers are good. Like,
you might
they're
be
not
right.
great. The Pacers are kind of like the Commanders' offensive line. They're better than you think.
Yeah.
Although they certainly don't have or the Commanders wish they had a Tyrese Halliburton. Yeah. He's legit. And we'll see Benedict Mather in a year or two. Like, we'll see what they can do. All right, housekeeping. By the way, are we taking this right to 45 or we have a break?
We're taking this to 42.
Oh, we got we got a little bit of a break. Okay.
07.
So we gotta get moving a little bit here. But I'll let Anthony continue to do the math. The point is, tomorrow on the show, it's Thursday, which is our Who Knows What Happens Day. What do we think we got on the show tomorrow? Do we have
tiers?
anything in the rundown? Oh yeah, we got our NFL tiers. Which
I don't think we have anything like Thursday.
Oh, 48 is coming on tomorrow.
Oh yeah, he is.
So we got Sam 48. We got who I actually just texted because I had a buddy of mine text me a really interesting question about the Commanders' like protection stuff and Sam and the sacks, and I was like, I wonder if 48 can look this up through something that I know he has access to, a certain database. So we got that tomorrow. Sam will come on, talk about everything. Trade, deadline, talk about who knows what other rumors and stories could come out. There's been some updates, too, about what's it called? The stadium, and Sam's all over that. So, like, we haven't really talked about that in a while. So we got plenty to talk about with 48 tomorrow. We also got our NFL tier rankings. We'll talk about this Wizards game a little bit.
We got EB and JDR.
Yeah, Bieniemy talks tomorrow, which could get very interesting. And then We'll see what else we can do. Probably find another guest.
Yep.
I'm trying to remember who's on the call this weekend. Oh yeah, that crew. It's Adam's crew, but without Adam, because baseball shifts everything around on Fox. So Schlereth's on the call this weekend. I think Chris Myers has the play-by-play. So I don't know. We'll see what we can do. All right. That's the housekeeping. If you missed any part of the show today, check the podcast. Rewind in the Odyssey app. Rewind. Whoa, Kuz's hairdo is crazy.
Yeah, I think he has a red heart in his head.
Is that what that is? It looks like he is bleeding from the head.
It does look like he's bleeding.
Because he's got it's a blonde, and then he's got the red, but it's like a very distinctive blood red.
Yeah, it's very bright. Like he might have done it this morning.
Yeah. That's
Last
crazy.
night. Yeah.
All right. Anyway, if you missed any part of the show, podcast, YouTube, some of it is going up very shortly on my YouTube page, the on-demand stuff at Craig Hoffman. Other than that, it is time to close out the show with another edition of Real Things, Real People Said, into real microphones.
Real things.
We're not gonna be so this year.
Real people.
5 and 11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
You know, the culture is actually damn good.
All right, this one of my favorite versions of Real Things is the mic'd up Real Things. And you might remember at the Nuggets parade back in the day, Michael Malone decided to talk about them being the Lakers' daddies. Like we kind of own the Lakers a little bit. So as the Nuggets were in the process of beating Anthony's Lakers last night, there was a chant that broke out at the arena in Denver, and it was picked up by the microphone that was being worn by Jamal Murray. And, oh, God, that keyboard's out of reach. I'm going to have to do this with the mouse. There was a chant that got picked up. Jamal Murray realized what it was, and he had one place to point the blame for it. Who's your daddy?
This is you. This is your fault. We gotta go there and go. And this is what you started.
I wish we could play Jamal Murray's face on the radio. When he realizes what they're chanting, he just goes, "Oh." Anthony's a Lakers fan. How does that make you feel?
Are you done?
Me?
Yes, you. Why do we have to play that today?
What do you mean, why do we have to play that today?
Nah.
I'm just here for the entertainment.
I'm not going to lie. Watching the Lakers get destroyed yesterday definitely did hurt a little bit, but it also suggests the Lakers got a long way to go if they want to compete in the West, man. I'm just going to take my headset off, and I'll allow you to finish the show.
We only got 27 more seconds. You can hear me. Don't pretend like you can't. What if I just started cussing?
Now I would be concerned.
Yeah. Well, see, someone looks like even though he doesn't have headphones on, he's found a way to listen to the show.
I did.
Imagine that. Producer does his job.
This is you. This is your fault.
That's what Anthony's saying to me. This is you. This is your fault. See you tomorrow.